Jaya Radha Madhava. He doesn't use that for all, that's mine. Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari. Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Maharaj seat, Maharaj seat. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jai Om Vaiṣṇava Paramahansa Buddhagacharya Ashtottara Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vaiṣṇava Paramahansa Buddhagacharya Ashtottara Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Balaram, did you want me to chant? Did you want me to chant the verse? Wait. Huh? Okay.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 8. Withdrawal of the Cosmic Creations, Chapter 7, Lord Śiva Saves the Universe, Text 32. We'll also read 33. Kama dvara tripara kala garadaneka Bhuta druha chapayata stutaye natate. Yastvantakala idam atma kritam svanetra. Vanispulinga shikaya basitam naveda. Kamadvara tripura kala garadyaneka. Bhuta druha chapayata stutaye natate. Yastvantakala idam atma kritam svanetra. Vanispuling shikaya basatam naveda. Word by word. Kama advara. Sacrifices for sense gratification. Like Daksha Yagya, the sacrifice is performed by Daksha. Tripura, the demon named Tripurasura. Kalagarura, Kalagara, Adi, and others. Aneka, many. Putraduha, who are meant for giving trouble to the living entities. Chapayataha, being engaged in their destruction. Stutiye, your prayer. Na, not. Tat, that. Te, speaking to you. Yatu, because. Antakale, at the time of annihilation. Idam, in this material world. Atmakritam, done by yourself. Svanetra, by your eyes. Vanis Pulinga Shikaya, by the sparks of fire. Pasitam, burned to ashes. Na Veda, I do not know how it is happening. Translation. When annihilation is performed by the flames and sparks emanating from your eyes, the entire creation is burned to ashes. Nonetheless, you do not know how this happens. What then is to be said of your destroying the Daksha Yagya, Tripura and the Kalakuta poison? Question mark. Such activities cannot be subject matters for prayers offered to you. Purport. Since Lord Śiva considers the great acts he performs to be very unimportant, what was to be said of counteracting the strong poison produced by the churning? The demigods indirectly prayed that Lord Śiva counteract the Kalakuta poison, which is spreading throughout the universe. Okay, next. 33. Exalted, self-satisfied persons who preach to the entire world think of your lotus feet constantly within their hearts. However, when persons who do not know your austerity see you moving with Uma, they understand you to be lusty. Or when they see you wandering in the crematorium, they mistakenly think that you are ferocious and envious. Certainly they are shameless. They cannot understand your activities. Purport. Lord Śiva is the topmost Vaiṣṇava, Vaiṣṇavanam Yata Shambhu. It is therefore said, Vaiṣṇavera Kriya Mudra Vigyana Bujaya. Even the most intelligent person cannot understand what a Vaishnava like Lord Śiva is doing or how he was acting. Those who are conquered by lusty desires and anger cannot estimate the glories of Lord Śiva, whose position is always transcendental. In all the activities associated with lusty desires, Lord Śiva is an implement of Atmaram. Ordinary persons, therefore, should not try to understand Lord Śiva and his activities. One who tries to criticize the activities of Lord Śiva is shameless. Om Gyanatibanandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Anmalitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karitivachalam Pangam Langai Tegirim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurundanitaranam Vanshakabdurubhishcha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Krishna is all merciful and all-knowing and everywhere, and that should be something we're happy about. Sometimes you think, "Oh, Krishna's everywhere," or "Oh, God's all-knowing." That means, what does that mean? Yeah, what I just thought, what I just did, and how could he love me if Krishna is all knowing and if he is everywhere? How can he love me, knowing that I am not fully in love with him, for example, knowing that I'm so materialistic or whatever? But we should be happy about that Krishna is all-knowing and all-merciful and everywhere. And that even if others don't understand us, Krishna does. sometimes people, they say, oh, this, people are understanding me. This person doesn't my friend doesn't understand me. This person doesn't understand me. That person doesn't understand me. My community doesn't understand me. Sometimes people think like that. It's a state of suffering, actually, when you feel that you're not understood properly. In other words, people have certain thoughts of you, a certain perception of you, but you feel it's not right. So it's a type of suffering. There's a story like that where a group of friends, they said, oh, let's act as if this person became a ghost. And then, so they all acted like that. And when they saw oh my God, it's a ghost, and everybody was, on the same page. And then the person started thinking, oh my God, am I a ghost? And everybody's thinking I'm a ghost. Like Casper, right? The friendly ghost. Hare Krishna. Some distant friends of family, they named their child recently Casper. This is an interesting name. So they all start, oh, he's a ghost. And the person started to think, yes, I'm a ghost. It must be a ghost. So in this way, it's interesting how what people think of us, our friends, our family, our community, whoever, it can influence what we think of ourselves, or it can be a state of suffering or confusion. But again, we should be happy that even if we feel like that oh, who could understand me? But Krishna understands. He's very close. As Bhakti Kevin likes to say, it's Sarit. It means he's a very close friend. Our most close friend is Krishna. He's there within our heart. So even if we feel ourselves unqualified, and even if we are in reality unqualified, in different ways, we have different faults, different shortcomings, things that are not Krishna-like, then still Krishna, he still loves us. It's a wonderful thing. Therefore, Krishna's most merciful, that one doesn't have to be perfect for Krishna to love them. He still has affection for them, because Mamai Vangsho, Jiva Loke, Jiva Buddha Sanatana, Krishna and the living entities are intimately connected. And Krishna, he is said to be Bhava Grahi Janardana, that Krishna, he picks up on the feeling or the devotion of the person. He, if someone, like in puja, for example, worshiping the deity on the altar, there's so many rules and regulations. Actually, Srila Prabhupada said that if I told you all the rules and regulations, you would just faint on the ground. There's so many rules and regulations. With chanting Hare Krishna, there's also things we avoid, offenses and so on. But with deity worship, there's much more rules and regulations to be followed. What is that? Yeah, these Narada, we have our abbreviated versions in ISKCON. And then Srila Prabhupada did say about deity worship, he said, keep it simple. It's the process for this age is chanting the holy names. But there's so many things that could go wrong in deity worship, so many things. Not chanting the mantras properly, forgetting to chant the mantras, whatever, so many things. Yeah. But it's wonderful that Krishna, he understands the devotion or the mood. That's what he picks up on. Now, of course, sometimes people use this like in a cheating sense that, oh, I don't have to follow any rules and regulations. I could just, pretty much do whatever I want, and Krishna understands my heart. So everything can be misused and utilized in a right and wrong way. So we have to be careful about that. But Shiva, Lord Shiva, because we're hearing about Lord Shiva here throughout this chapter, and eventually Shiva is going to drink the ocean of poison. There's a picture here, see? Lord Shiva drinking. Most merciful Shiva. He's saving the universe. That's going to be described in the next few verses. How this is what merciful people do. They do things to help to help alleviate the suffering of others. They're not selfish, just thinking about themselves, or maybe extended selfishness, their friends, their family, but they're thinking about people in general. There's millions of people, billions of people. So Lord Shiva very mercifully will drink this ocean of poison, and this way he saves the universe, which would otherwise be destroyed by this poison. So you can imagine how intense the poison is. And therefore he is known as, Nilakanta, or like one with like a blue throat, because the poison remained there. So, but Lord Shiva is very often misunderstood because he is not dressed, or he doesn't act like usual Vaishnavas dress or act. It's quite different. For example, Lord Shiva his whole body's smeared with ashes. I mean, if somebody walked into this door and their whole body was smeared with ashes, I mean, you see this sometimes at like Kumbh Mela or something, people, if you don't go to Kumbh Mela, you could see it in National Geographic or whatever, but people smeared with ashes. I mean, it's quite, if you saw somebody on the street there, you'd be surprised. Shocking. And not only does his body smeared with ashes, but he also has a garland, and it's not made out of flowers. Anyone remember what it's made out of? Yeah, skulls. So if you saw somebody with skulls, a garland, and then not only that, but he has a snake on him. Yeah. There's a little crescent moon there by his head. He has a third eye. The third eye is not like eye like this, but it's going the other way. There's the third eye. So in this way, he looks with his matted hair. Yeah, the Ganges coming on his head. So in this way, he doesn't look like other Vaishnavas generally look. So people are confused. Who is this personality? Mother Yashoda, there's a whole pastime with Shiva wanting to take darshan of baby Krishna, and Mother Yashoda was like, she's a little scared for her son. Who is it? But eventually Shiva is able to get darshan of Krishna and so on. There's also Gopeshwar Mahadev. He's the protector of the Dham in Vrindavan. He protects it from, you could say, materialistic people. It's also very, it's unique. There's a temple of Shiva in Vrindavan, and in the evening, they dress him as a gopi, as a cowherd girl. That's quite. You don't really you don't hear about that. I think that's the only personality that they do that for, and there's a whole history behind that. That Shiva, he wanted to see the Rasa Leela, the Krishna dancing, the gopis, and of course Krishna is the only Purusha, he's the only male there, so Shiva wasn't allowed on that basis. So, but there was some allowance in the sense that, okay, they said, okay, you bathe in this kund and you come out, and then, so he did that, and he took on a gopi form. And and then he was there in the Rasa Lila dancing. So then, just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Srivas Thakur's house, when they're having these night kirtans, nocturnal kirtans, only the pure devotees were allowed in. Most people were outside, so there's only a certain number of devotees there. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when there's a case of Srivasa's mother hiding there wanting to see, and there's also a case of this brahmachari hiding there wanting to see. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he stopped the kirtan and he said, I'm not feeling the usual ecstasy I feel. There must be someone here that shouldn't be here. So similarly, Krishna and the Rasa Lila was a similar thing. They stopped the music, stopped the dance, you know. So you can imagine such beautiful music and dancing, and then they just stop. And they say, oh, somebody's here who shouldn't be here. So one gopi, she's going through and she's looking at the face of every gopi to see who it is. So then she gets to this one gopi and she doesn't recognize her, and she says, oh, who are you? And Gopeshwar Mahat, he has the third eye there, and she's looking, and who is your father, and so on. So then it's revealed that it's Shiva, and in the form of a gopi. So what happens there? Krishna, he gives him a special allowance. He says, okay, you could be there at the gate or the entrance of the rasa dance, and you could guard that, make sure nobody comes in. But then you could also see from the distance this Rasa Lila. So yeah, his appearance and activities are unique and a lot of the times misunderstood. But these ashes, it's not that they're ordinary ashes. They're the ashes of great Vaishnavas. So in that way it's purifying. They're not ordinary skulls, they're the skulls of great Vaishnavas. In that way it's purifying. I mean, of course, still, people are like, oh wow, imagine if somebody was there. It's hard to understand, but Shiva is such a transcendental personality. And what to speak of his associates, the people he's trying to help, all of these lower living entities. So, I mean, you have the example of Daksha. Lord Shiva's meditating there, and everybody stands up, and they offer proper respect to Daksha. And Daksha happens to be the father-in-law of Shiva, and Shiva doesn't stand up. He's meditating there, and Daksha becomes extremely offended. He said, this person, and so disrespectful. His body's covered with ashes. He's associated with all these low entities, and he just really criticized them heavily in front of all of the assembly there. And then that progresses into sati, self. What do you call? How do you say that? What's the word? Self, sati, what is it? Emulation. She started the fire and went up, and her body went up in flames. And there was this whole aftermath that Govardhan was mentioned the other day. So in this way, there's a number of cases where Shiva is not understood. And as Srila Prabhupada points out here, this is a shloka from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that it is very difficult, and some would say impossible, to understand the mind of a devotee. He says, even the most intelligent person cannot understand what a Vaiṣṇava like Lord Śiva was doing or how he was acting. In other words, the activities are, there's an element of just mystery there. You're just not really what is this person thinking and what are they doing? Like it could be a little confusing. Just like Srila Prabhupada would sometimes do things or say things that devotees, they weren't exactly sure what Prabhupada was thinking. That's actually a definition of grave. Somebody's grave, you're not sure what they're thinking. Like, for example, when he was in Juhu, he was there with Giriraj Das Brahmachari and Bhagavan, I believe. And Srila Prabhupada had this long conversation with them, because this man, Mr. Seti, a devotee, he wanted more money to apparently help speed up the building of the temple. So Prabhupada had this long conversation for like 2 hours, back and forth, into the evening. It's late, going late into the evening. And devotees were wondering, why is Prabhupada, why is he speaking to us so long about this? Should we give him money? Should we not give him money? And then eventually, Srila Prabhupada said, we're not giving it to him. And then the devotees, they went and they had rest. They took rest. So then the next morning, Mr. Seti came, and then he said, Srila Prabhupada, I need some more money to help fund this, the construction and so on. And Prabhupada said, yes, sure, take it immediately. So then devotees were wondering, oh, we had this whole long conversation, and then Srila Prabhupada at the end, he said, like, emphatically, we're not giving him money. And then just the next morning, he said, yeah, sure, just give it to him. Of course, later on, they meditated on that, and they were thinking maybe it was that Srila Prabhupada was training them to think very thoroughly about things, but still, you don't exactly understand what's going on in the mind. Just like when Srila Prabhupada, before he came to America, he was at one temple, and he was with one other devotee, and some guests came in, and the altar was closed. So then Srila Prabhupada was there with this devotee, and they were about to have lunch, prasadam. So actually, they were having lunch. They're having some rice and dal and chapatis and so on. So then this person walks in, and they don't really pay any respect to Srila Prabhupada or his friend, this devotee with him, and they just kind of ask, "Oh, the altar's closed? Okay, then we're leaving." Like somebody kind of walks into class, they take darshan, and then they just leave. It was something like that. So then Srila Prabhupada commented to this devotee who was with him, and he said, "Yes, these people, they think, oh, there's just some old man eating a chapati." But he said, they don't know that this old man is going to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. So so in other words, it's difficult to understand what he's thinking. What does it mean, spread Krishna consciousness all over the world? How does he have so much conviction in that? How does he know that? So there's all these things that are difficult to grasp. So therefore, it's also difficult, as it's being stated in the purport, to understand Lord Śiva. It's a difficult personality to understand. But we can relate this to our own lives in the sense that it's also difficult to understand the devotees around us. What are they thinking? What are they feeling? Sometimes it's difficult to know that as well. And therefore, it's always good to give people the, what do they say, like the benefit of the doubt. Is that what it is? That's a term? That they mean well, that they're trying and so on, but maybe I'm missing something, maybe I'm not understanding. So that's there. Just like with Lord Śiva, I mean, externally, it's somebody think, well, who is this person, But he's the greatest Vaiṣṇava. So yeah, really, it's difficult to understand, but we could try in some way to understand. And that also helps in dealing with people, to try to understand people to whatever degree we can. But then also to be merciful in our perception of people. And ultimately, again, we should be happy that even if we feel people don't understand, because that's common, maybe more common nowadays than not, that people feel misunderstood, should have faith and conviction that Krishna understands us. And, okay, does anybody have any question or comment? Chad's moving to a microphone, but Bhajanarayan Swami, yes.
Yeah. Well, what if, let's suppose you as the temple president or me as the local GBC, Dravida Prabhu as a senior devotee, they're correcting me. And I think, well, you don't really understand me, you don't know my motivations, you're being judgmental, and you know, Krishna knows. So you may be telling me to do this and that, but you don't really understand my circumstances. And I'm just going to coast on what Krishna thinks. I'm not going to agree with you because Krishna knows me.
All right, thanks. Thank you for the question. Even if, of course, this is, but even if we're corrected, and someone may say, "Well, hey, like, I'm not wrong," or they're not seeing the full picture, or something like that, it's still good for us. Actually, it's still good for us. Anything, really, that makes us more humble is good for us. Anything that makes us more tolerant is good for us. And it's not that the devotees are meant to be all-knowing. They're not all-knowing. I remember I brought this up one time to some senior devotees that there was a time where Srila Prabhupada criticized one of his sannyasi disciples for too closely speaking with a woman, and by the rules of sannyas, they're not supposed to speak so closely. There was some rumor like that, and Srila Prabhupada, he corrected them, and he was strong, and he criticized him for it. And this devotee went on to explain how, well, that wasn't the case, and so on. And based on the story description, there was no reason he was lying about it. But still, so I brought that up to some senior devotees, and I was thinking, like, why is it that Srila Prabhupada would criticize him for that, even though he didn't really do it? And then the devotee brought up a good point that it's not that the spiritual master, it's not that the devotees are Krishna, that they're all-knowing. Like they have, they know, like Krishna. They're not like Krishna in that way. So even if they do criticize a disciple or somebody who they're training, it's still good for them. Still good for them. Of course, that might be difficult for people to. What do you mean? You know, like if the guru says. Because sometimes you say these statements, it's like, well, what do you mean? Like if the guru says if it's a rope, and the guru says if it's a snake, and the guru says, oh, it's a rope, you know, pick it up, you know, it's like, well, what do you mean? Like one devotee, So those are some things. So that's from the disciples' perspective, or someone being trained. They should be very humble. They should think, okay, I should see this as Krishna's arrangement for my purification, to make me more humble, to make me more tolerant, even if these other devotees may not be seeing the full picture in my perception. And another thing is, I may be wrong. Maybe they are seeing everything from the right perception, and I'm just wrong. I'm just an illusion, and I'm hallucinating, thinking that they're not seeing that they're not seeing properly. Because there's a lot to say about experience. You know, if you've been around for many, many years, you may know a lot from somebody just by looking at their face and their body language and their tone of voice and their general behavior and activities. You may know a lot, and you may be able to see a lot more than the person thinks. And therefore you are correcting them, you are guiding them in a particular way based on their weaknesses. Like, oh, this person is like this, this, and this, so I could see that, so okay, let me try to instruct them in that way. So that's another thing. But from the perspective of those acting as teachers, as gurus, as far as possible, they should try to see, you know, what's the situation. So those are some thoughts.
Very good.
If anybody has anything.
Yeah, very useful.
I think, Chad, do you have?
Hare Krishna. So, what are some of the characteristics and things that Lord Shiva's done, like drinking the poison, that makes him the greatest of Vaiṣṇava?
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, some years ago, anyways, I was asked to give some talks, and it was around Shiva-Ratri time, and then, you know, Deveshri asked me to talk about Shiva, so I give a number of classes on Shiva, which, yeah, it's a bit of a challenging topic. But in terms of Shiva being the greatest Vaishnav, how this is described in this particular chapter here, how he is the greatest Vaishnav. He saves the universe. I mean, that's
right up there at the
yeah,
top of the list.
yeah. Yeah, it's not that he saved himself, or it's not that he saved. I mean, it's glorious to save oneself. It's glorious to save one soul. It's glorious to save a few souls. I mean, save them from ignorance, from illusion, from suffering. It's glorious. Like Srila Prabhupada said in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, the introduction, I believe he said, even if by this attempt of starting the Hare Krishna movement, and even if we make one pure devotee, it's a grand success. So, but what to speak of saving the universe, all the living entities. And that's what he did. And we'll see that there's very important verses coming up, and it's not that I'm stealing the thunder of speakers that will speak in the next few days, but we could take just a quick look at 39. We won't really discuss it much, but 39 and 44, that people in general, being bewildered by the illusory energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, are always engaged in animosity toward one another. Like Prahlad Maharaj, he prays, may everyone think of the welfare of one another. They give up the envy. But devotees, even at the risk of their own temporary lives, try to save them. So this is glorification of Lord Śiva. And then it says here that it is said that great personalities almost always accept voluntary suffering because of the suffering of people in general. This is considered the highest method of worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is present in everyone's heart. So, because he was working for the benefit of the whole universe, he didn't have to accept that poison, but he did. So, sometimes they say, like guru, you know, they absorb the karmic reaction of the disciples. It's like poison, actually, absorbing that. Of course, with the help of Krishna and the disciplic succession, but it's a pretty heavy thing. But Shiva here, he's accepting this poison on the behalf of the whole universe, saving the universe. So in that way, he's the greatest Vaishnav. I mean, there's many other, you could say there's other reasons he could be considered the greatest Vaishnav, his meditation on Krishna, his pure devotion, but this is a very important way that he's the greatest Vaishnav. So, all right. Any other questions or comments? Any online? Bijay? Krishna? Not here? Okay.
Yes, I'm here. I have a question.
Okay.
Yes, you said that it may be difficult for us to understand the mind of the Guru because of how grave he may be. But that quote reminded me of the book that Srila Prabhupada wrote, Bhagavad Gita as it is. And I do not recall, while reading Bhagavad Gita as it is, to find any passage difficult for me to understand, in the sense that I was not understanding the mind of Srila Prabhupada as the author of the book. So based on this, my question is, it seems to me that the gravity of the spiritual master is more in relation to personal relationships, mostly with the disciples. Then that gravity will not be felt in his writings, because it seems to me that when he is writing, he needs to show for real what he's thinking. So this is kind of a comment and a question.
Yeah, good. That's a very interesting point you're making. Yes, there are Srila Prabhupada's books, and they're very clear. He said, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and you are his servant, and it's a business to engage in devotional service. And he, people would comment, scholars and so on, that that's his main emphasis. And then Srila Prabhupada said, yes, you can't. I've written these books in such a way that you cannot squeeze it out in any other meaning. So there's no impersonal meanings. It's very clear. So that is the glory of Srila Prabhupada's books, that they're so clear in this very unclear age of Kali Yuga, where people are writing books and giving lectures. It's just complete, just really kind of, you could take it so many different ways, but Srila Prabhupada's very clear. So that's there. But then, if we read about Srila Prabhupada, his biographies, there's so many wonderful books we could read about Srila Prabhupada, we should. That will give us an idea of how he implemented these different principles in Krishna consciousness. And yes, like you said, in dealing with disciples, in dealing with people in general, there was a lot of gravity there, and it's not that Prabhupada was so mystical, like all the time, in the sense that you could just absolutely not understand what he's saying when he's dealing with you. But there's an element there of gravity which makes it difficult to understand what he's thinking and his activities. So yeah, that's there. Thank you. I think Bhajanarayan Swami has a...
And I have a pastime. When he was in the VIP room in one...
I was just thinking about that, actually. Yeah, Geneva, right?
I don't know about the place. I just know that it was the VIP room in the airport. Would you like to tell us?
No, you could tell. You could tell.
Well, the reporter, the journalist, asked him about the hippies. How he asked to Srila Prabhupada, how would you describe a hippie? And Srila Prabhupada responded by saying, well, I am paraphrasing Srila Prabhupada. He said, well, I don't know, something extraordinary.
Yes. And then Srila Prabhupada said,
everyone left.
Then Srila Prabhupada said, you know better than me.
Yes, he said that. So there was at least a little of gravity in that statement.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to add something. On one hand, your point is good, just like Balaram quoted, that Prabhupada said, I've written these books in such a way that nobody can squeeze any other meaning out of it. That's very clear, as it is. So that's great. But just to glorify Srila Prabhupada, and because it's true, I've been reading Prabhupada's books for more than 50 years, Bhagavad Gita. And every time I read it, I find something new. So it's not that, okay, you know, Prabhupada's very clear and I've got it and I understand the whole thing. You know, Prabhupada can make a statement and it's understood on 30 different levels.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not, hey, Vijay, that you understood Prabhupada perfectly and fully. None of us. It's always revealing and there's always more. So on one hand, it's very clear and simple. And on the other hand, it's deeply profound. And as we make advancement, we find even more.
Yeah. Yeah, they say it's like Srila Prabhupada's books just are deceptively simple.
Yeah, who said that? That's good.
And ever fresh.
Yeah, deceptively simple. Like, for example, if you look at Nectar of Instruction, I mean, like you were saying, like Bajranaran Swami was saying, there's so many levels of understanding. Like Prabhupada writes, the Krishna consciousness movement is under the direct supervision of Rupa Goswami. It's like, or the Krishna consciousness movement is the incarnation of Krishna. I mean, like, so many levels of understanding. It's quite amazing. All right. Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.